We're going to continue today in 1 Peter, and 1 Peter 5 is where we're going, and we're going to talk specifically about why God gave the church. I think I said it this way. Go to the next one. Why God gave the church overseers. 1 Peter deals with this, and if you grew up in America, and obviously most of us here did. If you grew up in the American culture, one of the things, and I actually like it about the American culture, is we celebrate mavericks. We celebrate do-it-yourselfers. We celebrate what we often refer to as the self-made man or the self-made woman, the person that defied establishment, the person that broke out and did it their own way and was a maverick. And that's great in American culture, but here's the issue, though. And I'm all for people tearing down institutions. I mean, Jesus was a master at tearing down institutions, right? I mean, he did. He was a master at that. But here's the thing. When you get into Christianity, you start to see pretty fast that it is an interdependent world. We are dependent on one another. And as society gets worse and as the truth gets more hard to spot, as the truth becomes more diluted, you as Christians, if you read the last book of the Bible, it's going to get worse, right? I mean, it just is. It's going to get worse. And so as it gets worse, you and I, we are all going to need guides. We are going to need people that help us navigate life like that. And that's what Peter's dealing with. Remember, he starts out his letter to those who are strangers and alien in a hostile culture. So it fits really well in the last chapter. He actually talks about the role of an overseer, a guy like me. And I'll tell you, I'm going to deal with this a little more in the fall. I'm just going to deal with it a little bit today. But it's in the book, and I wanted to deal with it now. I don't want to go into too much. In the month of July, from July 1st to August 11, I'm going to be gone for about 6 weeks. I'm going to be on a sabbatical for about 6 weeks. And you've got... we have lined up an awesome team of preachers. We have Ben Mandrell, who you've been here a few times, phenomenal communicator. We've got our own Jonathan Espy, great communicator, love what he's doing here. And obviously his wife can sing, which that's awesome. That was cool. I had never really heard that, I don't think, and that was really great. Thank you. We've got Mark Rampula out of Spring Hill by way of New Jersey, and he's going to bring his New Jersey self up in here. You've seen him before. Y'all really treated him well, which was great. And we've got Mike Wilson, who My Life Speaks. So these are all people you know. They're not people that haven't been here before. But in that time, from July 1st to August 11, I'm going to be, one of the things I am going to be working on as kind of something that's just important to me is I'm going to be spending some time in the New Testament looking at what is the role of a pastor. And here's why I'm going to do that. Because in my 30 plus years of ministry, I have watched just the church, the American church, just the American church, I believe, and you could disagree with me, and it's okay for you to be wrong. Everybody's been wrong. But I have watched the American church's definition of what a pastor is called to do, I think, drift from what the Bible calls us to do. I really do believe that. And I want to look into that on my own. And so in the fall, and it hit me, it dawned on me not long ago. I thought, one of the things I don't think we ever talk about a lot is if we're going to be in this thing called a church, churches have pastors, but we don't really preach sermons on that. You would think that would matter. If we're going to be under the leadership of ministers, it would be good that we all know what those guidelines are, right? But we just kind of don't talk about that enough, I don't think. And so we're going to do that a little bit of that more in the fall, but I wanted to deal with it today. So let's read 1 Peter 5, we've been in this for several weeks now, and we're now in chapter 5. And so here's what he says. Chapter 5, verse 1, 1 Peter. Therefore, I exhort the elders among you as your fellow elder and witness of the sufferings of Christ, and a partaker also of the glory that is to be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but voluntary, according to the will of God, and not for sordid gain, but with eagerness. Not yet as lording it over the people. In other words, don't be a dictator to those allotted to your charge, but providing to be examples of the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of glory. Now, this is an important verse, verse 5. So first he talks about a guy like me, Alexis, John, Jonathan. He kind of gives a word to us. Guys like Shane, he gives a word to us. But now he's giving a word to all the people in our congregation. Verse 5, you younger men, or you to those of you that are younger, likewise, be subject to your elders. All of you clothe yourselves with humility toward one another. For God is opposed to the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. So that verse in the same way, you who are younger must accept the authority of the elders. Big statement. And Americans raised in a self-sustaining, Americans, we value self-starters, self-sustaining people. All that is great, and I'm all for it. But yet, when you start using words around Americans like you must accept the authority, people get bristly pretty fast. Like, what does that mean? It's just not something. We are one of the few cultures, I think, that really do struggle with falling underneath something. Americans, we were just built different and raised different. So what does it really mean? When he says we're to fall under the authority of the elders, well, let me tell you, I drew a few things out because I'm a visual guy. And so when we're talking about the church, we're talking about the people of God, not just Sunday morning, just the church body, okay? Here's how it's not. I'm going to show you how it doesn't look. So the green is representative. I just picked colors at random, mainly those that matched with blue. But green and blue. The green is representative of your ordained pastors, and the blue is representative of your people. Well, that's not the model. That pastors are just mixed in there. We're just another opinion among others. It's not to be, the Bible doesn't tell us that it's to be a consensus type of leadership. That's just not what the scriptures say. So we're not just a people that hold a position, but we're just one among many. It's also not this. It's also not where pastors, the green being pastors, me, Alexis, Jonathan, John, we got 4 ordained ministers right now on staff, and I think, is that right? Did I miss anybody? Oh man, I'm having a 51 moment. I hope I don't miss anybody. If I missed any of my people. But we're not just advisors sitting off to the side. I've actually seen churches run like that, by the way, where ministers are just there to offer some advisement, but the people do what they want. Well, that's not the biblical idea. And for those of you that like org charts, we have a ton of corporate leaders in here. If you like org charts, here's also what it's not supposed to look like. It's not supposed to look like that. That really is more called a cult, right? Where the guy like me is just, what I say goes, and that's just very dangerous, and you don't, and then seriously, you don't want that at all. So we're talking about the New Testament here. What does the New Testament say? And what is Peter getting at? I think it looks a lot more like this. I think it looks more like, if you notice, the pastors provide a shield. We are a shield. It's not just an org chart of, you can lay it out that way if you want, but I kind of did that to show like a buffer that we're there and we were given a charge by God to be overseers. So the Bible uses about 3 words in the New Testament for when Peter talks about that he charges us as elders and he charges you as those who follow. What is he getting at? Well, there's basically 3 words, and here they are: elder, shepherd, and overseer. An elder is someone who, it's not age related. It's not somebody that's just older. You've always said, well, you got to respect your elders. Well, in the Bible, let's think about David. David was younger than a ton of people as a king, right? Jesus was definitely younger, and he was the lead elder of the whole movement. So it's not an age-related thing, but an elder, now I'm going to go into the Greek for just a minute, but an elder, that word is the word episkopos. That word is the word presbyteros and presbytery. It is meant that you are to preside over. A guy like me, a guy like Alexis, a guy like Jonathan, we are there to preside over. But the word poimen, shepherd, is one who tends, who rules, who cares. And then you got the word overseer, and that's the word episkopos, and that's to supervise, right? So those are your main three words that the New Testament uses for somebody that sits in a chair of those you call into leadership. Now, here's the reality, though. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you want to chop it up, there's one thing that you can't deny, that all three of those people are the leaders. That's what the Bible says. It doesn't, and look, if we're going to be people, listen, people, if we're going to be people of the book, then we're going to be people of the book. You can't just be people of the book sometimes, and you can't just be people of the book if you like it. There's a lot of things I would do if I didn't have to. You know, I might live different if the book told me different. But if we're going to be people of the book, then let's be people of the book. And so what does that really mean then? I mean, what does it mean for somebody to have authority figures over them? Well, Peter starts using the word elder, and that's the word presbyteros. And it basically means this. It means to preside over an assembly of believers. It means that we are there to preside over. Now notice, if you paid attention during what he said, do you notice there was no place for arrogance in that? Right? No place for arrogance. He talks about clothing yourself with humility, not to lord it over. Like, we're not, a guy like me, a guy like Alexis, we're never to be somebody who just demands our way. That's very unhealthy for a church body. And so you may have come up in societies like that within churches. And sometimes any pastor is human. They can drift over into the place of authoritarianism, and that's not good. It's just not healthy, and it's not what you want. But the reality is a presbyteros does preside over. So let's unpack that for a minute, okay? Here's a few truths. Number one, an overseer, they are set apart by God to preside over an assembly of believers, to preside over this. So God gave you that over an assembly, and so it's something that's there for your benefit. It's there for you to be guided through. Now, I'll tell you something about ClearView. Every church, Shane just spent some time talking about the DNA of his church. Every church has DNA, and every church has kind of what makes that church unique. One of the great things that is really a neat thing at ClearView is that our church is absolutely full of high-level leaders, more than any church I've ever been around. There are more people in this congregation with CEO and VP and director in front of their name than any church I've ever seen in my life, right? I mean, a lot of you are entrepreneurs. You own your own business. You're creative. You own your own brand. We are way overloaded in a good way of people that are really good at what they do. And they're used, most of you in here, you're used to being the leader, right? Let me tell you, y'all are hard to pastor. I'm just going to tell you right out of the gate, right? It's hard. You know why? Because you're smart, right? You're just smart, and you're also used to being in charge, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But I'm going to tell you something that one of our CEO leaders one time said. He said, you know what, though? We were talking about this issue. And he said, I wish, this is his words, not mine. He said, I wish our people, most of our church is full of leaders, and we're solving other people's problems all day long, and we're solving huge business issues all day long, and we're exhausted by the end of the week from trying to move revenue or change the culture or keep the company alive. And he said, I wish our people could get to a place where they realize that this is the one place they don't have to make the decisions. Like, it is such a Sabbath to go, man, I can just go on a mission trip and say, what do you need me to do? You know, it's the one place. And we're not asking, like, by the way, one of the cool things for me is I call a lot of y'all when I'm stuck. Hey, what would you do on something like this? Or, hey, how do you see this going down? How does this work? Because you are very good at what you do. But what I'm trying to say to you is that this is a place where you've been given a rest from having to make all the decisions all the time. And I hope you would take it and understand that we're here to help navigate you through life. And I want to touch on that in terms of how that works, because we just went through some models of church. And let me tell you something, and I mean this isn't like some, backhanded compliment or some passive-aggressive way of preaching. I wouldn't do that to you. I don't think I would. I hope I wouldn't. But we just went through some different church models, and I want to just pastor you from the pulpit for a minute, if you let me, right? Because there's times that as pastors, what our body deals with is not what another church in Franklin deals with. Our church has its own DNA, right? So let me tell you, I was super proud. I mean it. I was actually really proud of ClearView back when we had our last 2 to 3 months. We went into a whole new form of church governance, to a church council. And I was super proud of you for that. I'm serious. I was super proud of you for that. Because let me tell you, you ask anybody that does what I do for a living, and you even talk among other preachers like we're looking at changing our church governance, they're like, really? You got your resumes out? You going to survive that? But that took us 18 months, and did it through a task force, and it was really great. And let me tell you why I'm proud of you for that. I'm proud of you because it's a more biblically reflective model, and that matters. And what I want to talk to you about just for a second, I heard many of you asking questions. Those Q&As were great. They were great for good questions. That's what Q&As are about. And by the way, if you don't come to Q&As and if you don't come to church business meetings, you need to. I mean, if we got to start passing out Snickers, I'll do it. Because you got to be there. You really need to be there. We need your voice. You're a part of this fellowship, man, and we need you to be there. So don't just cop out when it comes time for the business meetings. Don't leave when it comes time for the Q&As. I'm telling you, that's where we really talk about stuff. And in those Q&As, we heard a lot of questions like, well, but nonprofits are run this way and nonprofits are run that way. And I want to address that for a minute because it's a valid question. It's a very valid question. I mean, this is central to our church's health. But I want to point some things out to you in that we may be recognized, listen to me, church family, we may be recognized by the government of Tennessee as a charity. That's true. We may be recognized by our city and our state government as a 501c3 nonprofit. That's true. But that is not who we are. We may have a tax status as a nonprofit, but we are a church. We are a church. And churches are governed differently than the Rotary Club. Churches are governed differently than the PTO. Churches are governed differently. And here's why I want to bring that up, because many across our fellowship are asking that question, and it's a valid question. It's not bad to ask those questions. So and it wasn't just in any one person in our church. We had several people sending us emails or asking us questions about governance and comparing it to that. And I want to say to you, it's not bad. We can borrow from that, but I want to say to you, the difference between us and any old nonprofit is we have a 2,000-year model called the New Testament. And that 2,000-year model hasn't changed at all. Aren't you glad? I mean, I'm seriously glad about not just church governance, parenting, money, sexuality, truth. That 2,000-year model is time-tested. It is time-tested. And that really matters. It really matters because it's not that we can't borrow thoughts from other places. It's not that we can't borrow ideas from culture, but we start our philosophical ideology here. That's where we start. We start right there. And here's why that matters. You can compare churches to corporate models all day long. But let me ask you this. Does Nike demand of its people that they all take communion? No, it doesn't. Does Verizon demand that in order to be a part of Verizon, you have to agree to a model of marriage that is one man and one woman? No, it doesn't. Does the Rotary Club or any nonprofit in America, does it demand that we worship one God and one God only, and his name is Jesus? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So while we may be a nonprofit, the reality is Apple doesn't command that its employees tithe. We are governed by a different set of standards. And because we're governed by a different set of standards, I was actually super proud of ClearView in that last 18 months as we've navigated moving to a church council, because here, what you don't want a guy like me or whoever fills my role. You don't want that guy presiding over all the decisions. And now we have a church council that I formally sit on. It's surrounded by a few key elected leaders. And you now have this it looks a lot more like it should, biblically. Now let me tell you, that matters because it keeps us healthy. You cannot expect, church family, you cannot expect a church to be healthy when it is structured for things that don't promote health. You follow me? You just can't. You can't expect a structure. And we were told that, by the way, but even by the attorneys we consulted. Do you know that some of the different law firms, all of them came to the same consensus? If you didn't hear me say this before, they all said, your operations and your bylaws breed division. Direct quote. I'm like, how? But they're, you know, I had some of the best advice I ever heard. Somebody said, what's the point of hiring a lawyer if you don't listen? You know? And when I started hearing them say that, different ones, I'm like, what do they mean by that? And I began pushing back, like, what do you see inside there? I mean, it's kind of like, you know, I'm not an accountant. When you guys look at Excel, y'all see stories and trends and lines. I just see like a spreadsheet. Makes no sense to me whatsoever how y'all can pick a story out of Excel. You know, I don't get that at all. Y'all are good at it, though. For me, when I look at these issues, I see, oh, wow, they see something I don't. And so we're here to help you understand how to navigate that. But here's the bigger question, and I want to get to this because I don't want to go too long. I began to ask myself, why is that? Why did Peter say that we are to preside over? Why did Paul say we are to shepherd and oversee over? What is their motive for giving the church overseers? Why? Why would God do that? And here's what all I can come to you is very simple. Okay? God gave me overseers to protect me. He gave you overseers to protect you. And here's what I mean. Not that we're perfect individuals, because we're certainly not, obviously. But he gave you overseers to protect you for a reason. You see, when you became a Christian, now stay with me because this is important. When you became a Christian, you were raised as an American, told to value independence, self-sustaining, do it yourself, provide for yourself, rely on nobody. That's what Americans value. But when you entered the world of Christianity, you ran into, whether you realized it or not, a very different mode of living. And that mode of living means that we are interdependent. I need you and you need me. And I don't mean just you need Jason the pastor. Jason needs you and you need Jason. And we all could say that about each other. And I'll tell you, if you don't believe that, church is really hard for it to work. For those of you that don't like being close to people, church is going to be hard for you. You can come and sit on the back row or front row for that matter. You can come and just disassociate. But I'm here to tell you, friends, if you want the best part of the fruit, you know, well, I mean, you don't think about it. I'm just thinking of fruit right now. You don't eat the skin, do you? No. You peel that sucker, whatever it is, and you eat the real thing. You get into the nectar of it. You want the nectar of the church? It's get in there with people. And they're going to rub you wrong, and they're going to frustrate you, and you're going to frustrate them, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be sweaty. But what Erwin McManus said it better than anybody I've ever heard. He said, the same people that make ministry meaningful also make it messy. It's just messy. And a lot of people check out over that. I don't want that. And you can do that. But it's going to be hard. He gave you overseers to protect you because we're interdependent and we're going to need guides. And those guides kind of do two things. Number one, overseers provide healthy spiritual climates on the inside. Shepherds provide healthy spiritual climates on the inside. You know what I've learned about being a shepherd? It's one of the 3 words used for my role. Shepherds don't take the sheep where they want to eat. They take them where they need to eat. Right? That's just the reality. You take them where they need to eat. And you take them where they need to go. You know why? Because let me tell you something about what God, for those, when a church congregation sets apart people like me, Alexis, Jonathan, John, and those that are the qualified, and they have put that mantle on them, you know what comes with that? What comes with that is discernment. And what comes with that is being able to see the body and how it needs. Like, same thing when you go to a doctor. Doctors see things about your body that you don't even know to look for, right? That's what shepherds do. And so we're able to spot check some of those things. So guess what? When your shepherds are there and they're telling you, we ought not go this direction, friends, you better listen. And the reason you better listen is because if you're going to put shepherds in charge of shepherding, you know, then they guide you to healthy pastures. And I've watched, I have seen, I mean it with all my heart. I mean this with it's hard to measure this, like, you know, measure it with numbers, but I want to brag on all of y'all for a minute, because I have watched over the last almost 7 years, I have watched ClearView getting better at this. I mean it. If you're a guest today, just get on Facebook for a second, because you're already there anyway, probably. When I first came to ClearView, I can't tell you why. I can't give you all the reasons. I can just tell you what I saw. And what I saw, not everybody, certainly not everybody, but what I saw was a congregation that had varying levels of frustration and anger. A lot of it with staff. I didn't understand it. I didn't know, but I inherited it, and I walked into it, and I was trying to make sense of it. I'm here to tell you that has gotten so much better. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how you're doing it. But don't change whatever it is, because it's just better. And people are learning to trust more. And I don't even know why some of those issues were there. I just know I was brand new and I hadn't been here long enough to make anybody mad yet. But I just know it was there. And former staff pointed to it, and I saw it to be true. But I'm here to tell you, Christian friends, that vibe and that culture is behind us. It is behind us. And man, it is cool. It is really cool. I just got one more thing to say, is that shepherds are there to protect you from enemies coming in from the outside. You see, the American model that I've seen shift in churches is that we want guys like me just to be soft and kind and gentle all the time. And that's a good goal, but let me tell you something, man. If you've ever known much about a farmer or a shepherd, they can be gentle people right up until the wolves come. And any shepherd worth his salt, when he sees a wolf, he's going to grab a gun. And I've got a lot of them. Metaphorically and physically. And if you want to see, and that's why, let me tell you, right or wrong, friends, when I die, I'm not standing before all y'all. I'm standing before the Lord Jesus Christ. And the congregation that he gave me charge over, if I see people in there trying to rip it up, and from the inside or the outside, you need to expect to see me. You need to expect to see me. I have not punched anybody yet in 34 years. I have thought about it many times. In Jesus' name. But I'm here to tell you, there are times that shepherds have to confront, especially when sheep that are really wolves clothed as sheep are attacking the people on the inside. No shepherd worth his salt would tolerate that. No shepherd. And I won't either. And I'm here to tell you that we're here to protect you from the outside and the inside, and that's why you need guides. We don't have blanket authority. Run from any shepherd that demands that. Seriously, run from that shepherd that demands blanket authority. Run from those dictators. That's not godly. But I'm here to tell you, as society gets worse and family life gets harder and the truth looks stranger than fiction, you're going to need elders, overseers, and shepherds. And we're here to help protect you. And the last thing I'll say to you before we pray is it hit me as I was putting this together this week. Why would God do this? Why would God give the church a different structure than he would give any other entity? I'll tell you why. It's out of his love. He loves you. And he died for all of us. And in order for us to thrive, he gave our church, not just ClearView, his church, the presbyteros, the poimen, and the episkopos, the elders, the shepherds, and the overseers. And they're there to take care of you. And they're there to speak the truth and hold it all together. But it only works if you follow it. It only works if you follow it. And our church has set up all kinds of filter systems for when guys like us don't follow it. Our church is very well insulated if you're new. We're very well insulated. But I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you, friends, yes, it's no secret ClearView's smaller than it's been in a long time, but I'm going to stand before you today and tell you with 1,000% confidence that operationally and structurally, we are better than maybe we've ever been. I mean it. And we are on our way to getting better at ministry all the time. Our engine is better than it's been. And our unity, I'm hearing from many of you, our unity is improving all the time. And I'm telling you, that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling that we have each other.
You know, it means a lot to us that you would come here today and be a part of who we are. It really does matter to us more than you might realize. Sometimes I think we underestimate the power we have to influence people. You know, if you would look around your world, you'd be amazed at how many people would receive what you have to say to them. You could be a digital missionary. You don't have to post everything on Facebook, or we're not asking you to go on your favorite social platform, but I would challenge you to look around your world. I guarantee you might have a friend, even in a different state or another part of the world, something was said today, whether a sermon, a prayer, a song, something was said that could mean a lot to them. Man, send it to them. You'd be amazed at how much of a difference that could make.